Hi, I'm Tim. I am the Tinkering Turtle, and today we're going to do the last in the series of 3 videos I've done on replacing the brakes on the Magicycle Ebike. As you remember in the last video, we switched from the nut brand calipers to the Tektro brand calipers, but we did not adjust the brakes to work properly. Today I'm going to show you a 2-step process on how to adjust those Tektro brakes to the Magicycle Ebike. What I won't be showing you is how to bed in the brakes. The reason I'm not going to show you that is it is the middle of December in Michigan and I don't want to go outside and do that. But I did show the process in a previous video, which I will link in the description below, and I'll also put a timestamp to the section where I actually did the bedding of the brakes. So please take a minute and look at that when you're done watching this video. Anyway, let's get to it. Okay, let's talk about the tools that I'm going to be using today. I use a 5mm Allen wrench. I bought a nice set of metric Allen wrenches to work on the bikes with. You get a little better leverage, usually a little better fit than the tool that comes with the bike. I have a package of cable end caps in case I need to shorten the cable. I probably won't be using these today because I did that in the last video. And I have a pair of needle nose pliers with the wire cutter to crimp these on if required. Again, I don't think I'm going to be using these two today because I did it in the last video. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it in the description below. I'll also relink these just in case you need to find them again. I also have a clamp to hold the handle in place, squeeze the brake handle because I don't have anybody here to help me today. And I'll show how I use that when I get to that point. Okay, the first step we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to adjust the compression of the brake handle to the grip. That requires that you adjust the barrel connectors all the way in on both the top and bottom, and then loosen the cable on the crank and pull the crank up a little bit to take up the extra slack in the cable. The reason you do this is because when you get a brand new bike, the cable is a woven piece, or is woven steel, and as you really crank on the brakes, that woven steel settles in. It doesn't stretch per se, but it settles in and can actually lengthen the cable while the sheath around the cable stays the same length, and that makes the brakes looser and looser. So what you're going to find is over the first couple months, you're going to want to adjust the barrel connectors, not necessarily the crank arm, but you're going to want to get all the adjustment out of the barrel connectors, because the first couple months, every couple weeks, you're going to want to adjust the barrel connectors to adjust the compression of the handle to the grip. That's going to be the first step. The second step, I'm going to show you how to properly align the caliper to the rotor so that it spins freely without noise and gives you a good crank on the brake. So let's get to that first step now. Now the first step in setting the compression back to the handle is to loosen the lock nut on the barrel connector and turn the barrel connector all the way in to increase the length of the sheath as much as possible. Once that's done, you'll repeat the process down here on the lower barrel nut and make sure that that sheath is as loose as possible so that when you pull the crank arm and you can pull the cable out, that'll take up that slack. So now that you've adjusted the barrel connectors all the way down in on the bottom and up on the top, you'll loosen this 5mm bolt about a half a turn to a turn. This releases the cable from the clamp. You'll pull the clamp up till it's finger tight. Make sure the cable's held back. And you want to make sure that the metal part is down inside the barrel, both down here and up above. Once that's done, then you'll tighten up the bolt on the crank arm again. This gives you the most amount of adjustability in those barrel connectors, and that's important when you're out on the road and you have to mash down on those brakes and you find that that handle gets a little loose. You can adjust the barrel adjusters to take up that slack in just a few minutes. You know, just a minute. It doesn't take very long at all. And you'll get all your braking power back. Okay, the next step is to loosen these two mounting bolts. I left this loose from the last time, so you can see the caliper moves pretty freely on the bracket. I left them loose, but if they're not loose, loosen these up about a turn, so when you adjust the caliper to the rotor, it has room to move. Now if you look on the back side of the caliper, you're going to find an adjustment here that fits the same 5mm Allen wrench. And right now what you want to do is tighten it up all the way. Okay, once it's tightened up all the way, you back it off about 1 or 1.5 clicks. I'm going to go 1 click, and we'll have to adjust that after we tighten up the two mounting bolts. Now the next step is to have someone squeeze the handle. If you don't have anybody to squeeze it for you, use a clamp. I am not squeezing this super hard. That's why I did a quick test on it to make sure I'm not pulling it too much. But the clamp is going to hold it in place while I tighten the two mounting bolts down on the caliper. Now that I've adjusted the adjustment on the back, I'm going to tighten up the two mounting bolts. Give this a quick shake to make sure it's in the right place. Top's tight and the bottom's tight. Now we've got this tightened up against the clamps. It's not going anywhere. We're going to go up above and take the clamp off the brake handle. Once you've tightened up the two mounting bolts, you'll come back here and adjust this out one more click or one more click, and then test and see if the wheel turns quietly. All right, now to test this, I'm going to pick up the bike and rotate the wheel. I can hear a slight rub on the rotor to the brake pads. So I'm going to go back here and make one more adjustment. I'm going to turn it one more click and retest it. Okay, I still hear some noise. So I'm going to go down there and make one more adjustment, one more click. And now it spins freely. Now if for some reason at this point you can't get the rub to go away, you may need to loosen the mounting bolts and kind of hand adjust where the rotor is passing in between those pads. Most of the time you can do it just by making the adjustment on the back side, but sometimes you do need to loosen these, adjust a little bit and retighten them up. Just keep playing with it until the rotor is centered between the pads and the wheel can turn without making any noise. Okay, the last adjustment I'm going to make is right now this comes down and it's fairly close to the handle. So I'm going to want to back this out a little bit and keep testing it because I like about a thumb's width in there. And this is a fine-tune adjustment based on what you like. So I think that's about where I want it. Then I just tighten up the lock nut to hold it in place. Okay, now that the brakes are adjusted, it runs smooth, you get a good grip, you're going to want to bed in the brakes. Like I said, I'm going to put the video and timestamp where I've done that for the Magicycle already in the description of the video. You'll repeat the process on the back brake. I'm not going to show that on the video because it's exactly the same process. One last thing to note is if you do get a slight rubbing and you can't get it adjusted out, bed in the brakes and see if just the bedding in the brakes takes that noise away. The back brake I did get a little bit of noise, but once I bedded in the brakes then it seemed to go away and I can't hear the brake noise at all as I'm riding. So take that for what it's worth. If you have any questions or concerns, leave me a comment, like the video if you liked it, it really helps the channel, and I will catch you next time.